I'm dying slowly. Not slowly, I'm dying pretty quickly. How long is this going to take? 20-something minutes?
Yeah.
I'm going to be dead before we finished.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Talking MotoGP with myself and the dying Donovan Free.
Seriously, this is going to be 25 minutes. I'm going to be dead before the end of it. You're going to see bits of lung all over this table. Don't worry.
If you hear coughing in between, just ignore it. It's just Donovan dying slowly on the side here. If he falls over, we'll finish the show and then I'll call the ambulance.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you.
Fair
So I'm going to start off, Don, just thinking about it now after the Catalunya race. I think the Lorenzo meeting in Japan went something like this.
I think that cap you're wearing is very brave.
No, listen, I have to just give him a little bit of... I've got to help the guy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. But I think the meeting went like this. Lorenzo's son, sit down. We pay you a lot of money. You're doing nothing. So we don't care about results anymore. Go out at Catalunya and take out all of Marquez's opposition so we can win the championship again.
And he did a really good job.
Turned into a samurai kid. Went to Japan, came back a samurai kid. But now, all jokes aside...
They gave him nunchuck, wings on his tank.
They did. They gave him weapons to literally take out the opposition. All jokes aside, I saw you did a really good article on the Bike Show website that kind of highlighted it perfectly. As it happened, we were at Ridgeway Race Bar watching it, and everyone went, "Oh, Lorenzo, you idiot, you took him out." And straight away, me and you pointed it out, and I think it's maybe from our racing background that you kind of feel sorry for Lorenzo in a way, because he came on the inside, he was overtaking Viñales. So he didn't care about Dovi and Marquez ahead of him, he was overtaking Viñales. At the point that Marquez was overtaking Dovi then decided to slow back down to square it off because Marquez was going to run wide.
Yes.
That's what happens at that corner. Unbemused to, or unknown to Lorenzo, was that, oh shit, I've got to now squeeze my front brake a little bit more.
No, here's the thing, okay, what people don't seem to take this into account is that when Lorenzo put on brakes, it's 6 seconds. You know, I worked this all out. It's 6 seconds putting on brakes to turning, into that corner. They go from 270 kilometers per hour to 59. It's a proper braking zone. When Lorenzo put on brakes, when he started that maneuver, he was overtaking Viñales. And it was fine. Viñales made a mistake in the corner before. Lorenzo was in the right spot. He put on brakes. He was next to Viñales. Everything was perfect. So the moment he started the maneuver, it was perfect. What then happened is Marquez pulls out and goes on the inside of Dovi. And then, as you say, I mean, suddenly you watch, he's going behind Marquez. Lorenzo, he's behind Marquez, matching his speed perfectly. And then Dovizioso tries to, quite rightly, square the corner off. And it's just a whole lot of events unfolded in front of Lorenzo. And remember, he is braking. And, I mean, I read a story, I can't remember where now. Our superbikes, when we brake, like on the anchors, thinking now we're at the edge of our limits, we're at 0.9 of a G. These guys with carbon brakes, top chassis and rubber and everything are braking at 1.7 G. So, I mean, you think about
the difference.
It boggles the mind. And anyone who's ridden a MotoGP bike is like a guest rider will tell you, it's not the horsepower, it's the brakes.
That scare them the most.
It's the brakes scare them the most. And the fact is, when you're braking there at 1.7 G and all this is happening in front of you, I mean, he couldn't go to the right because Viñales was there. There's a Dovizioso in front of him. There's just grass and curb and all sorts of stuff. There's no...
What do you do?
What do you do? You're sort of stuck in this predicament, but when you started the maneuver, everything was fine.
And rewind to 2016, the same thing happened with him, with Iannone and Lorenzo, where Iannone said the same. I went into the corner, Lorenzo all of a sudden scrubbed off more speed than I thought he was going to. Remember, these guys run at 0.001 of everything. They're within a millimeter of everything. So, and I watch it time and time again because I'm trying to look at it from the layman's point of view. But for me, because think about it like this. So, and I watched it again and again, and Neil Hodgson took like a really in-depth view of it. But Lorenzo's on the inside. Viñales matched him around the outside. They went into the corner side by side. So, if it was Lorenzo going too fast, why didn't Viñales lose the front?
Exactly.
Lorenzo lost the front, and watch it again, purely because at that point of pitching it in, Dovi was now squaring it off and slowing it off. So Lorenzo went, I don't want to hit Dovi, squeeze a little bit more brake. And like you said, at 1.8 Gs or whatever, if you go 1.8.1 of a G,
1.81.
It's gone. And that's exactly what happened. So I love the article you did. I think it explained it perfectly. Yeah, I'm not going to say that too often.
No, it's people say whose fault is it? Lorenzo apologized, which he should. I mean, it was his it was his overtaking maneuver that caused it. Although, in fairness, it wasn't as though it was a sort of rash or guilty maneuver. It wasn't. And because Lorenzo, although he doesn't always come across it, I believe he's a really nice guy. He goes and says sorry, which is the right thing to do. But it was just a bunch of
there was no malice in it.
There was a bunch of events that just unfolded that, left
ruined
everyone in a hell of a predicament. And so now all we've got here, it's a bit of a change. Normally we've just got finishers and then like some other little notes. Here we've got finishers, non-finishers. There are 13 finishers and 11 non-finishers.
There's 2 races in this one race. The finisher, they should get points for not finishing because that's crazy. It was just
even Zarco got points.
Ian only got points. Sylvain Gintily at 150 years old with 10 million kids.
He finished 13th.
He finished 13th as a wild card on a Suzuki. So it just shows you it really was a race of nutrition. But going back to the Lorenzo thing, you said in your article as well, he had the hurry up because he was on the soft tyres. He wanted to make it count. Now, my only other problem here with Lorenzo is, and it kind of goes back to his Ducati days as well, can he only make these bikes work if he's on soft tyres? Which is a problem.
He has traditionally, when he's had to use medium tyres, he struggles a lot more.
Le Mans,
Yeah. You remember on Ducati last year, he was running soft tyres and everything went well. Lozano, he had a bit of doubt about the soft front. He went to a medium front and crashed after being completely dominant. The moment he put a medium front on, he couldn't use it. It just all stuffed out. So I would have loved to have actually seen how this race would have panned out.
I know.
Lorenzo was on rails. I want to know, was that just early pace because of the soft tyres and he wouldn't have been able to keep it up? Or like Lorenzo, is he able to keep to nurture those soft tyres throughout the race? I want to know that. Why did you fall?
I know, damn it really did spoil a good race. It really did. But we've spoken about it. We're not going to go on. They
handed the platter to Marquez. They handed the race on a platter to Marquez. And Marquez did not look strong. That whole weekend, you can kind of tell Marquez...
He was on edge.
He was on edge. He was following riders everywhere and he was making mistakes. And normally Marquez goes out and in the first 5 minutes of every session, puts in a fast lap and spends the rest of the time trying out race stuff. And this time, he just looked like every single time he went out, he was kind of like...
he wasn't... He didn't have the pace to win that race.
And he made that maneuver on Dovizioso. It was also kind of a little bit of a pushy maneuver, and that was a little bit of desperation there. And I'd love to have seen how it would have panned out, because I don't think Marquez would have had it all his own way. It was going to be a spectacular... Vinales learned what a throttle does in the first 5 laps.
And off the line.
That thing? What I love is that Vinales sat after the race. Okay, the other riders that were taking out the crash were kind of like, look, they were annoyed about it, but they were like, well, look, it happens, Vinales was just like, no, he must be penalised, he must be penalised, he must be penalised. Okay, this is Vinales who at Kota, when he was given a ride-through penalty, instead did 2 long laps. Instead of a ride-through, very clearly instead ride-through penalty, he did a long lap because... And this is also the guy that in Q2, during qualifying at Catalunya, went past at the end of the session and started doing stand-up wheelies and celebration
slowing down,
while the session's still going. And he thought the session was over, even though he didn't see a checkered flag waving.
That infamous black and white thing that waves at the end.
Vinales, I suspect, is not going to win any science prizes or anything like that anytime soon.
You know what was a pity is that the Yamahas actually looked like they had pace. Rossi was also very disappointed because I think Rossi and Vinales would have been key players in that top 3, and I think that is really what spoiled the race.
Something I didn't notice is old Quartararo. He qualified on pole.
Terrible start.
Yeah, he got a terrible start, but here's the thing. He spent the whole race behind Petrucci. And he spent a long time there, and you kind of think to himself, wow, he is struggling. But the moment he got past Petrucci, he just disappeared. And that is sort of a weakness of the Yamaha, because they're very slow down the straights. So you can't get close enough to kind of pass. The other problem with the Yamahas is they got that very fluid sort of style.
Yes.
So it's not hard on the anchors late.
Petrucci's block is stop it in the turn.
You've got to be running a faster pace than Petrucci, but you struggle to get past because, although you're running a higher pace, you can't actually get in there, past them. It's just you've got this Ducati blocking you in every single turn.
That's where I kind of find a little bit. I felt sorry for Rins because he spent that entire race trying to get what did we call it on the day? A zombie versus a furry woodland creature. But Rins did everything. But what was impressive is, and again, this just highlights what we spoke about last time, is that the Ducati all the MotoGP bikes can't run at 100% power the whole race because that Suzuki slipstreamed and passed a Ducati.
Yes.
A Ducati at full power, that would
Yes.
never happen.
But you'll notice that every time at the end of the straight, Rins would come up next to Petrucci would outbrake him. And the Suzuki is very similar to the Yamaha, very fluid kind of style. I don't know whether it's an inline 4 kind of promotes that, I'm not sure. But yeah, those bikes at these, like the Ducati, is just able to brake later, harder, and then sort of stop in the middle of the corner, point it up straight.
And have the power to get on and the drive to sort it out.
Although he could pull up next to Petrucci, he could never get hard enough on the brakes to pass it.
I think he had the pace to challenge, obviously, for top 2. And I had him down for the win, actually, after watching Marquez all out of shape. I mean, my whole Super Brew got destroyed.
Okay, hang on, let's talk about Super Brew now.
No, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Hang on, Super Brew. So, if you did win Super Brew, if you named the correct top 10,
you were a god.
No, you're not a god. What you did is you let your 3-year-old choose it for you.
Because there's no ways in hell. We had a competition on the day with the originally Ducati enthusiasts to win a shark helmet. Nobody won because no one even came close to guessing the top 3.
You only win if you let your 3-year-old choose it.
It really was a case of that. I mean, it did spoil it. It took out the big players early on.
Hang on. You didn't do too badly. What was your guesses? No, not the Super Brew, that one. I think you were trying to be polite.
I guessed because I didn't want to win the helmet because it would have been a little bit unfair, and if I did, people would have just gone crazy. I said Happy Siren to win.
Yes.
Iannone in second and Zarco in third. And at one stage we were sitting there going, "Jeez, I'm not
now,
actually
if Siren
right."
didn't crash, you might have won that.
Exactly. Iannone was 11th. And Zarco was 10th, so I wasn't too far off.
Well, you were a lot closer than you thought you were going to be.
Yeah, look, I was playing a complete fool, and it actually ended up being not too bad best.
We were talking about people taking other people out. Bradley Smith is the test rider for Aprilia, and Aprilia were good enough to give him a wild card ride. So what did he do? He took out Alicia Spargo.
He almost severed Spargo's leg.
He injured the full-time works rider on his,
He must have got such a slapping.
And interesting,
when he got back to
this happened just before this happened. KTM announced that they will not be giving any of their test riders wildcard rides because the test riders tend to kind of interfere with the actual.
Well, Mika Kallio proved it over the last couple of years.
And it kind of distracts the works riders, and also at the same time, these riders are meant to be there testing, but they don't. They're just concentrating on trying to get as high up as possible. So they kind of banned it. And straight after that happened, Smith takes out Aprilia's top rider.
So it kind of highlights the point not going to. And I saw what having the test rider racing did with Pirro and those kind of guys is that if the likes of Iannone got beaten by Smith, he would say, "Oh yeah, but he's running the new carbon swing arm." Yeah. Or like if Pedrosa now testing, he tried a new tail seat unit and a new carbon swing arm or something for KTM. Had he raced and beaten them, Zarco and them would then point fingers and say, "Oh, well, that's why he's beaten us." And it just causes all that confusion within the factory. So it's sad in a way because I would like to see a Pedrosa do a once-off ride on the KTM, although I don't think he would want to because, I mean, he finished last in the test, which you can't take much.
The first public showing of Pedrosa was straight after this race. They did the test. And he was stone last.
So he was stone last, and he was quite a way off. Look, he's still coming back from injury and that, and I've seen an uninjured or a really injured Pedrosa climb on a Honda and still run like top 5. So there's work to do there for KTM. Having said that, Paulo Spargo, another top 10 in 7th, albeit because of the bowling match that happened. But 16.1 seconds, he shaved off another 7 or 8 seconds from their last year's time. So that KTM is coming strong. Zarco, again, that is a lot better.
Well, Zarco's 26 seconds behind, which is a lot. I mean,
it is a lot, but I mean, if I just page over because I don't do any writing, we can look. Where is he? I had him down. He was 41 seconds off at Mugello.
At the top there, you've got just written Rossi shit.
Yeah, Rossi shit. That was our Mugello.
Yeah, there we go, Mugello, Rossi shit.
So, I mean, Zarco, and in the test, he was faster than Espargaro. You can't take much for that.
Zarco was 14 seconds closer to the front this race than last. But I will say it's interesting is Pedrosa. Now, we always said Zarco and them got off Yamahas, and they say, "Oh no, fluid style of Yamaha." That's why he struggled with KTM. You've got Pedrosa who got off the Honda, which is said to be very similar to the KTM in the way you ride it, and he's struggling.
And he battled, so it just shows you.
But I just wonder if it's not a case of feeling, like when Rossi first got on the carbon fiber Ducati, and the problem was not so much problems. He couldn't interpret the problems. There was the feel through the bars was not the same, and I wonder if the steel steel trellis frame just kind of gives you a different feeling that you don't understand, you know, and you're kind of used to the aluminium, you're used to the way it reacts, you're used to the way it kind of it works through the bars, and I wonder if this is just not a different feeling.
And it showed because the Yamahas in the Monday testing, I mean, this is Vinales. This is just Vinales to a T. The Yamahas were working really well at Catalunya. We saw it with Quartararo and Pole. Morbidelli was up there, although in the race he suffered or whatever. Rossi and Vinales are good. Vinales goes out on the Monday, goes half a second faster than the pole time on his last of like something like 88 laps. I mean, what does Vinales eat on the morning of qualifying or a practice and a test compared to what he eats on race day?
Yeah, okay. I mean, you got people like Quartararo, people like Vinales. I think they need to work on their practice more. Because you've got riders like that are going out doing 4-5 laps, putting in hauling pace, where you've got people like Rossi, and nowadays you see Marquez doing it.
He did it at Catalunya.
Where you're going out, they're spending most of their time out there.
On what they're going to race with.
On race setup, you know what I mean? And it doesn't look as impressive, because, I mean, genuinely, the race pace is a second and a half a lap slower. It is.
It is.
But that is where you should be working.
And
then the race starts, and all these guys who qualified right up near the front go backwards. And the people like Rossi come through.
That was
that's
what was impressive with Quartararo this time around, because I kind of thought, is it going to do the same? And when he got the bad start, you thought, okay, look, he was helped out with a crash net, but his overall race pace to finish 2.6 seconds off Marquez, and look, we don't know how hard Marquez was pushing once he found out.
Look, well, okay, Quartararo finished 2.6 seconds, and one stage Marquez was 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, so he backed it off. It's not a case of Quartararo catching him or him, but he had his arm pump surgery, didn't seem to suffer too much from that, did well to get ahead of Petrucci, because, like we said, we saw Rins just battle, and Rins, I mean, how was that save going into turn one? That has got to be one of the best saves in MotoGP I've seen in a long time. I mean, that was ridiculous.
Shall we pop to Moto 2 quickly?
Yeah, let's. Okay, so MotoGP's done and done, we know what happened there.
Saves. Who was it? It was Remy Gardner, wasn't it? No.
Now, you're thinking Moto 3 with John McPhee.
Moto 3, John McPhee, sorry. It was a long time ago. Okay,
out of the infamous turn 10.
Okay, hang on, that turn 10, first of all, I'm actually, and a few people have seemed to be agreeing with me, turn 10 is causing more problems than Lorenzo or Bradley Smith or all of these. Because a quarter of the crashes during the Catalunya weekend, and remember, this is a track with, I think it's got 14 turns.
There were like 100 crashes.
A quarter happened at that turn. So not 1/14th, a quarter. So that turn is a problem.
Well, Rossi's came out and he said he wanted scrapped. He wants that corner scrapped.
He always said he wanted scrapped. The problem is if they went to the old turn, which goes in a bit
longer further,
and a bit faster, there's not enough runoff space, and they can't increase the runoff space because there's a track on the other side there. But I think they've got to do something. I mean,
maybe make it a slightly faster, so it goes from the new turn onto the old one a bit or something. But they've got the room to play there.
The stupid Herman Telk type stupid hairpins. No.
Look, it clearly doesn't work, because and that people don't realize how sharp that corner actually is, because those guys literally come to a standstill.
They are 59 kilometers per hour. They do 270 when they put on brakes. They're doing 270 kilometers per hour. They get down to 59.
And on a MotoGP bike, that is standstill. Yeah. You know what also impressed me, quickly touching on MotoGP for the last time, is that whole shot device on that Ducati clearly works, because Dovi once again came from nowhere to whole shot. So, I mean, Gigi Dell'Igna, beard and all, has done it once again.
That guy's a genius. I mean, it's you know what I love about it is he's not... You've got all these guys that are working on kind of what they have now. Okay, we have this aluminium frame.
Yeah, resting on their laurels.
Let's just kind of, if we adjust it this way, and then you got Gigi, he's like thinking, what if we make it out of wood? You know,
what would the Smurfs do?
You know what I mean? He's getting these thoughts, and I'm sure 90% of what he thinks about is absolute rubbish, but some of it just sort of does come through, and you get these great things. I read something interesting, something with similar lines. Marquez and the Honda, all the Hondas are running. They've got a new air duct in the front. And apparently, and I don't know how true this is, I heard, but apparently it's just a straight through air duct. And they've somehow made space in the front. I don't know whether it's got different types of yoke or a different steering neck or something weird. But if I try to understand this, it's like that front air duct goes straight through.
There's no interruption.
So it doesn't kind of go around. And that's something that was being spoken about a lot, but no one actually tried. And if I read what people say correctly, maybe the Honda did it. And that's one of the things you'll see people are struggling with the Honda now, is that the Honda has less feel, but more flex.
Okay.
So it doesn't have the same, and you'll see like Crutchlow's kind of struggling with it. So it doesn't tell you, if I get this right, it doesn't quite tell you when it's about to go.
Okay.
But it doesn't go as quickly at the same time.
Okay. Yeah.
And part of that is you'll see they're all running softer front tires because they can.
They can now.
Because it's got more flex, which is kind of interesting.
Look,
and they're going to have more straight line speed. And we know the
Which
Honda's
they
a lot
have.
faster this year. And a lot of that could be down to just a simple air duct in the front.
Well, just better airflow, yeah.
Simple.
Because in Nakagami on the Monday test, climbed on the 2019 bike for the first time and went half a second faster than his weekend pace. So it's obviously a good bike, but in the hands of certain people, because like you said, Crutchlow's hating it, and what he was doing in that race, I don't know, he just completely missed his brake marker and nearly destroyed himself again.
Yeah.
What does he do? What does Crutchlow do? I mean, how much longer can Crutchlow get that factory Honda, especially with a Japanese? I mean, Nakagami is exactly what Honda Japan want, a fast Japanese rider in MotoGP, and he's starting to week in, week out now, pile the pressure on Crutchlow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much longer is that going to happen? And with Lorenzo.
Oh, Crutchlow, it's just, that whole overtaking maneuver, you just sort of look at it and go, what are you doing? Where are you going? What are you doing, you know?
It was a completely ridiculous move, it really was.
It was on Miller, wasn't it? I think it was because Miller said he sleeps with his wife or something.
Yeah,
no,
check out that video. You told me about that
did.
video. There is the best banter video you've ever seen.
Go look on the MotoGP Facebook site. BT Sport did this thing where Cal Crutchlow and Miller commentated on a bunch of footage of themselves, and you've got to watch it.
It's the greatest. I shared it on my Facebook page after Don told me about it. It's absolutely
brilliant.
epic. So, okay, MotoGP, the next race is going into Assen, where you don't know if it's going to rain, snow, be cancelled or anything, so we don't really know what's going to go on there. But previously, Yamahas have worked well there as well. Rossi, famous last minute, turning his M1 Yamaha into a Tenere in the final chicane.
Well, the nice thing about that sort of track, it's not a straight line track.
Yeah. So a lot of guys are going to come into play.
Tons and tons. It's a very old school
But is the
track.
Ducati going to suffer there?
I think so. I don't think it's very much a Ducati circuit.
They have to work really hard.
The last 2 years, Marquez has been ridiculously strong. And I think the last 3 years, Honda's won there.
But he's always looked on edge there to me as well, through those fast right-handers. Remember last year, was it Rossi that came on Lorenzo and rear-ended him with that rear-end footage?
Yes, you remember that?
Look, Lorenzo could go well there if they can make the soft tyre work, which in Assen where it doesn't get hot,
it could
be an option. So watch out for
But
Mr.
you remember
Lorenzo.
last year there was a big dice until Marquez said, right, this has been fun, goodbye.
Yeah, I know.
And he disappeared. So
I hope he doesn't. Look, the championship now after Catalunya took a huge dent. For Marquez, he's loving life, but we need something to happen at Assen. And I'm not wishing any bad on Marquez or anyone, but we need to spice this championship up because at the moment it's turning into a Marquez show again.
Jarvis needs to go and have a chat with Morbidelli.
And VR46 Academy rider.
Yeah, go up to him and say, listen, that Marquez.
You see what Lorenzo
turn
did?
one, you see that?
See what Lorenzo did to our riders. We need you to take one for the team.
And then we're going to get so much flack.
Oh,
no.
Anyway, so Assen, quick predictions before we move on to Moto2 and Moto3.
Okay, winning is going to be Jürgen van der Koerberg.
Coming out of retirement.
Who hasn't actually raced for about 30 years. But he's only Dutch rider I can think
What was that GP 500 he used to ride, man?
He rode it was the MUZ or something.
MUZ, yes.
Or something like that.
So he's going to bring that out and he's going to destroy everyone.
He's going to bring that out, he's going to win by miles while high on weed. It's going to be excellent. I'm going to say Guntoli's going to arrive as a test rider. Second's going to be Bradley Smith. And third, no, I don't know.
Happy Sharin.
Happy Sharin. Oh, Jesus. No, okay, oh boy. Okay, Marquez is going to win it because I'll surprise myself if he doesn't.
Yeah. It's going to be a battle of Yamahas, I think, for those final two podiums.
Second, I'm going to say, you know what, I'm actually going to say Rossi. I'm going to say Rossi's going to have a good one. And third, Rins.
Good man. That's pretty much my top three. So well done, you've just replicated my top three.
Well,
so
no, you can't copy mine now.
Listen, I'm now second in Super Brew. I'm about 9,000th in the world. I've just given up on it. I want to just cuddle my kids and my wife more and try and get action out of her rather than playing with that stupid game anymore. Let's move on to Moto3 then. Darren, epic ride from Darren. And we've touched upon it so many times. Unfortunately, got caught out in that final couple of laps where he just lost that toe. And
turn 10.
That toe is like 0.2 of a second. We're not talking about a toe that's like a second. 0.2 of a second and his race was ended, but he did so well to hang in there until a silly Argentinian rider.
Turn 10. Also
turn
same
10.
thing. Did you see there was that one lap he went onto the straight in first place?
Yeah.
And at the end of the straight, he was in 8th place.
I know, it just highlighted that size
He
in Moto 3 just doesn't work.
He needs to go to Moto 2. I know he wants to win. I know all that, but I think he needs to go to Moto 2.
I agree.
Maybe he'll give Brad a hard time.
And the KTM's a hard time.
But that was a spectacular race. Those Hondas breaking down, that was interesting.
It was. Della Porta, those Hondas never break. And this time they did.
Oh, 2 of them. Interesting. And the Turkish rider causing a bigger pile-up than Lorenzo.
I mean, that was ridiculous. And let me tell you, if I was one of those riders that got taken out by Chan on Chu, the way he took them out, I promise you I would have a lawsuit against that, because that was attempted murder.
You wouldn't confront him in person. Have you seen how big that guy is?
No, he is.
And he's Turkish.
No, he is. And he's funny looking. He'll just pull out a knife and stab you. I know that. But I would have a lawsuit out against him for attempted murder, because that was just ridiculous. But Moto 2, there's not much to talk about. I've spoken to Brad a bit. Yeah, Marquez just dominated it, and he's looking really good. But I saw an interesting article come out that he's looking like he's going to be content with staying another year in Moto 2, because there's just nothing
he's going to get an Avencia. He's going to get a third-hand Avencia Ducati, if anything.
Or whatever. It's going to turn into a satellite Suzuki. So there's no option. So he could be. I mean, that'll be like his 10th season in Moto 2.
But I just find it a bit. He's winning now. I mean, he's been there for how many years? Now he's winning.
Go to World Superbikes on a Honda and see how good you are.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, it's not like he's been like Brad, who's he's been there 2 years longer than Brad, and it's not like he's sitting with a KTM that doesn't work. You know what I mean? It's like finally only now he's starting to come in. Everyone seems to say, "Oh, here we go, Alex Marquez, the next latest greatest thing," because his surname is Marquez. If his surname was anything else, you kind of would have gone.
Well, in that team that he's with now, people forget Tito Rabat won a world championship with Mark Fidius in Moto 2. Franco Morbidelli last year. So it's a world championship winning team. So Marquez has been underperforming until now. Anyway, Brad, I spoke to him after the test. He said they got an updated suspension and chassis. It didn't really make any changes. I showed you the message. Bruno, they're getting a whole new bike. So they need time to redesign a whole new bike.
They're going to have acid. They're going to have... then it's Saxon Ring.
Then it's Bruno.
Then there's some time where we all just hide under rocks.
Yeah, where we have to eventually do the garden.
We're going to have to do the garden, and we're going to have to, I don't know,
shave our pets and
wash there we go. And then Bruno is the next race after that. That begins the second half of the season, and they're going to bring a new motorbike. And come on, KTM, please give Brad something good.
Please, because, I mean, the rumours are, and he won't budge, obviously, because I asked him, listen, so what's happening now with Tech 3? He won't say anything. He's clever like that. These guys are all under management, so they can't say anything. But the big rumour is that he will replace Shireen next year in the Tech 3 KTM, and you touched on it last time as well. Some people say, no, it's a terrible move, but is it a move to get into MotoGP? At the end of the day, we want to get into MotoGP. What other rides are possibly going to come available?
I would rather he's doing badly on a KTM in MotoGP than badly on a KTM in Moto2.
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of the thing. If the KTM in MotoGP gets better, and the Tech 3 team is going to get better, people forget it's still a new team with that KTM chassis and the whole KTM setup. So does he make that leap now? Because at the moment, if he stays with KTM, especially after Bruno, if the new bike's not anything like a Kalex, is he going to have another year next year of just trying to get the KTM Moto2 bike to work rather than just being in MotoGP? And in MotoGP, the guys, you look at what they've done with Miller, they don't just look at results. They look at sector times, they look at how well you practice and everything. And Brad's a professional like that.
One of the things is now in Moto2, there's no riders that are really standing out. You know what I mean? There's no real big...
Oh, the Sari's throwing it away.
I mean, they had a chat to, I think it was Puge or one of these guys who kind of said, we don't see any Marquez's coming. Quartararo was one to look at. And
they did well to get him.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you need to ask, okay, so the next year there's sort of no real contracts up. But the year after that, there's a bunch. So if you've got a MotoGP team, what do? Do you take a rider who has spent a year on a bit of a crappy MotoGP bike, or do you take a Moto2 rider that looks a bit kind of vanilla? What do? I would go with a MotoGP rider. Yeah. At least he's got some
experience on the tyres, in the class and everything. Yeah, it's a very good point you make there, actually. So, I don't know. From Brad's side, like I said, on one side you want him to go into MotoGP on a competitive package, which in reality is not going to happen. Climbs onto their KTM, kind of earns his stripes on the Tech 3 bike.
If he can give the likes of Zarco and Oliveira and them a hard time, and at least show his muscle there and kind of show, listen, in the KTM camp, look, I'm up there. Then he can go to some of the other teams and go, hey, do you want to hire some little kid in Moto 2 who doesn't know how to ride, or me?
Or a Moto 3 world champion who can ride a Moto, he's won in Moto 2 and is performing in MotoGP.
So Brad, do that, message him right
Yeah,
now.
I'm going to message him right now and say, Brad, listen, Donovan and I have sealed your future.
We've
do
worked
what
this
we
all
told
out,
you.
don't worry, we've got this under control.
Touching on Stephen Windall, another tough weekend for him in Moto 2, but he's just catching up on testing and fitness and everything, so I'm pretty sure he's going to come strong towards the end of the year.
There's going to be plenty more ab photos on Instagram, don't worry.
Yeah, stop taking ab photos, like, please. You want to see proper, real men's bodies. Stephen Windall, all you MotoGP riders actually. If you want traction, this is what you got. This is what traction looks like. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this Catalunya Talking MotoGP. We'll catch you next time. Plenty of MotoGP action still to come from Assen. Sachsenring is going to be good. Brad's kind of home circuit in a way. Plenty of guys. Sachsenring always throws up a few curveballs, and then we got that horrible break. But
and then we've got a lot of gardening.
Yeah, then we got a lot of gardening and shaving dogs to do. Until next time, keep well. See you later.